Bleacher Report gave every NBA team a grade for its offseason, and the two LA teams brought up the rear. Lakers with a D+, Clippers with a D-. So, Rachel, would you agree with these sort of lesser of two evils grades, that the Lakers have had a little better offseason than the Clippers?
Sure, because the Clippers lost one of their two best players, and the Lakers did not lose one of their two best players. The Clippers had two guys who averaged more than 20 a game, and one of them is now gone. So, yes, I would think that that is a rougher offseason. But I do also agree that it has not been a stellar offseason for either team. They do both have more flexibility now, so I am curious to see what kind of moves they make before the trade deadline. It seems like we are setting up for our annual LeBron James Invitational Twitter sort of, pre-trade deadline kind of, situation where he puts
some eyes or something.
He puts all kinds of things on there and puts pressure on the team. And by the way, it's been effective, so I'm not being critical of it, but it seems like we're headed down that road again. There are still moves they can make before that, but the market has it's not that active right now. So I think that both teams could have made different moves to get here. With the Clippers, I just don't know if they just never thought in the end what they were offering Paul was going to be so below what he wanted that he would walk, because otherwise, if they really did think that, they should have dealt him instead of losing him for nothing. But I think they kept thinking through the season they were going to be able to reach an agreement, and it became very obvious by the end they weren't.
Misplayed their hand, and I kept telling you the entire time when you were saying, Rachel, based on your information, that he did not want to leave Los Angeles.
He did not want to leave Los Angeles.
He didn't want to leave, but he wasn't going to play for $60 million over 2 years. That's what he wasn't going to do. And then when you initially gave him that offer, it ticked him off to the point where there's no return. You know how it is. Somebody lowball you and you looking at it, you're like, and then all of a sudden you want to come up a couple months later and say, okay, we'll give you 150, we'll do it. It's like, no, never mind. Now, in terms of the grade, D-, I give them a fail. I give the Clippers a flat-out fail because they lost. Like you said, a 20-point guy, an all-star. They lose. I don't care what anybody say. A healthy Kawhi, yes, he's better than Paul George. This much. It's not like this. Because if it was like this, the Sixers wouldn't have said, come to us and help us try to defeat Boston, and we got $200+ million for you. Just come to us. He would have never got that. They calculated and made a mistake. First of all, they should have signed Paul George, because if you know that your star player is always hurt, what are the chances that he's going to get $150 million on the open market with constant knee issues come postseason? Chances are you probably could have got him after you signed Paul George to whatever, 150. You could have probably got Kawhi to take a little bit less, even more, because of his injury history. So you miscalculated that. You lose Paul George. In terms of the Lakers, I mean, Taurean Prince and Spencer Dinwiddie, you could say that basically is a wash with Dalton Kincaid. I mean, you could say that's a wash because he's playing pretty good.
He is.
Pick up summer league basketball. He got a nice stroke and a shot.
He's made for that.
And he's made for that. Then Spencer Dinwiddie, you picked up in the middle of the season somewhere, and he's kind of long in the tooth. And then you pick up a little bit of a young Bronny James that becomes a project. So I wouldn't just smash him at a D. I mean, I would just basically say it's probably a C, because what else are they going to do at 17?
Yeah.
This draft wasn't loaded with anything. What are they going to do at 17? They got what they could get. They got a projected top 10 pick at 17.
They did. It was a steal.
They got something. That's a win for them.
Yeah.
And then you say, well, they didn't do more in free agency. Well, they can't. It's hard to do anything in free agency when you got LeBron James and Anthony Davis. What you going to tell LeBron? You're going to tell LeBron, don't take any money, and we can sign another free agent? A big-time dude? No, that wasn't going to happen.
Okay. Back to your point about the Clippers. If Kawhi were 100% healthy and you thought you could trust him to play 70 games, 75 games.
He played 68 this past season.
He did, but then when it went, it just went again. Yeah. And it was just this random game at Orlando.
Yes.
And all of a sudden he says, my knee hurts. Well, we didn't see anything happen in the game, and my knee hurts. And it was hurt. And he did need another off-season scope to clean it out, because he needs one almost every year. So he's not getting any younger, and the knees are not getting any better. So do I trust he can give you 70-some games?
Again?
I just don't. And the reason it ultimately didn't make sense to me was that you need Paul George to offset what you won't get from Kawhi.
Yes.
But I can tell you for a fact, the Clippers decided they would be better off without Paul George. That's banking totally on Kawhi, okay? Because they decided that their offense didn't work as well with both of them on the floor because both of them did need the ball to go ISO. And they liked James Harden. They brought him back again for $35 million a year for 2 years. They liked James Harden's fit with Kawhi. And then Norman Powell, I don't care what you say, he is really good to me. He can just light it up. And if he's your basic six with Russ, he's like the seventh man. But maybe if you move him up into the starting lineup if you want to. They love Terrence Mann. Their point was they decided they could do without Paul George. And I'm with you until Kawhi just got sent home from the Olympics because he just wasn't quite ready to go, okay? Because it's still, he's recovering from another scope. And I'm sure I told you yesterday, I think Lawrence Frank behind closed doors was just jumping up and down. Yay, he's coming back because they didn't want him to go risk it again with a big run through the Olympics.
He's a top guy.
Okay, so it's hard for me to give them a complete D- for this because the other player, I don't like what he did because he had a domestic violence assault charge, but Kevin Porter Jr. can play, and he's still a very young player who is last year, we're going back 2 years ago, in Houston, he averaged 19 a game, and then he had to go to Greece last year because he was suspended. But the point is, they stole him. They got him for I guess you call it the veteran minimum. It's like $2.2 million. So I don't think they're a bad team. In fact, I could see them back into the playoff team. They added Derrick Jones Jr., who played very well. He's maybe not a 3-and-D guy. He's a D guy. I'm not
But
sure
all them names you just named, those kids, none of them is Paul George.
No, and by the way, I would disagree that they thought they were better off without Paul George. They tried to keep him. They just didn't do it at the pace that Paul George would have wanted or any player of that caliber would have wanted, and they got burned.
They could have did it at a different pace, starting at a different number.
Well, that's what I mean, though. They didn't come right out of the bat and say, great, here's what we can pay you, Kawhi. Here's something equivalent,
Come on, Rachel.
that we can pay. No, I'm agreeing. I'm saying that
that man money.
that they didn't do it that way. So I think that they would have preferred to keep him.
Yes.
I think that they wanted those two guys on the floor. And we just have to look at this experiment that the Clippers have had these past 4 or 5 years and say, okay, this didn't work. I think Paul's a great fit in Philadelphia. I'm excited for that. I do disagree with the bottom of that screen right there. I don't think that the Lakers and Clippers had the worst offseason. I would put Chicago in that conversation. I would put some other teams at least in that conversation. But I do think the fact that both of these teams, in the Clippers case, lost one of their best players, in the Lakers case, didn't make the adjustments that we knew that they needed to make to be a championship contender. And there were free agents that they could have signed this summer.
Well, they tried first of all,
DeMar DeRozan.
The Klay Thompson situation needed to be a trade for him to even be able to get to the Lakers. The Golden State Warriors was like, we had that guy. We don't want Russ. What are we going to do with him? Y'all trying to pawn him off on us? Never mind. Then when you say the Murray situation, I don't know. You probably know more than me. I would think that they would have had somewhat of an inside track to get him based on his agent and the whole relationship with the Lakers. But they didn't have enough to go get him.
They did not.
They didn't have enough. There's nothing that Atlanta said we want back. So you look at that. Then who else? We wanted the big. The big was going to get more money somewhere else than what we could offer him. So he decided to go to another place.
They could have made room for that.
Valanciunas.
They could have made room for DeMar DeRozan. And by the way, LeBron came out and said he would have taken less money for either of those guys.
I don't know that DeMar DeRozan personally. I don't know that he wanted, much as he is from L.A., I don't know that he wanted to be on this Laker team with this current roster. I don't know that.
He strongly considered it. And he does want to be back here. I think that is important to him, but clearly something else was more important to him. And
Okay,
he's still in
back to
California.
Clay, I still can't believe he chose Dallas over Lakers. I just can't believe it. If Chris Haynes is accurate, and he always is.
The money wasn't that different.
Chris said the money was a little higher offered by the Lakers. Okay, so I know state tax would knock out some of that in Texas, but man, I don't know. Okay, up next, Young Money joins us to debate Bronny.